Go straight to that. Okay, so anyone watching will notice that I don't have a webcam. So for the purposes of the audience, you should know that I am a bald man. Many years by skin-headed choice, but increasingly in recent years that choice is being forcibly made for me. But not being able to go to the hairdressers or the barbers is something that I think a lot of people have struggled with during lockdown. Have you coped with it okay?
Yeah, I've had some haircuts, some home style haircuts, courtesy of my girlfriend. But yeah, that's.
You're not like the protester in America.
I mean, people could probably tell if you're watching that I don't have excessively long hair.
I mean, on your head, might, your back might be out of control. I don't know.
I've said this before, but the problem with being mixed race is like white people hair goes down and like Afro hair goes like sort of out and up. But my hair, because it's a combination of the two, just sort of does neither and both and just sort of horizontally comes out the side of my head in this unmanageable boff.
What a band unmanageable boff were, though. Whereas I, who is painfully white, I'm just losing my hair. I'm just, a sort of involuntary tonsure at this point. So my second topic is about a time when barbers did more than just cut hair, and when they were called medieval barber surgeons.
Were they called medieval barber surgeons at the time? Did they realise? Or was that added later?
Yeah, so at the time they were called barber surgeons.
Okay. Modern barber surgeons, cutting edge barber surgeons.
Hey, like it. Hey. They probably could have called the shop the cutting edge rather than retroactive like medieval edge. So in the Middle Ages, barbers didn't just cut hair or trim beards; they were tasked with bloodletting, amputation, applying leeches, and pulling teeth. Which is quite a range of skills. A little off the top. How about a little off the shoulder? No, I'm good, thanks. So from early as 1000 AD, surgeons and physicians did entirely different things. So like physicians were exclusively in the service of the richest and the nobility, residing in courts and castles, and they were considered to be above the practice of surgery. So like they were the thinkers, the diagnosers, they were highly educated, studied in Latin, and were sort of more like medieval sages than what we'd consider as modern day doctors. Surgeons, on the other hand, while skilled, were the ones who did the operation bits. And who looks after the lower classes? The barber surgeons. Essentially, they were apprentices to the surgeons. So physicians were accredited and licensed by universities, having gone through several years of study. But surgeons were a trade guild, like blacksmiths or coopers or farriers. Yeah, thieves guild.
But only because everything I know about medieval times I learned from Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I mean, sure, that sort of thing where you start at the bottom and go through the ranks or whatever. So you apprenticed as a barber surgeon, starting with a hair cutting. The easiest medical procedure, given that it's not got any nerves. And they were often assigned to monasteries around Europe to do regular tonsuring for monks, which is where you just cut the little hole.
Yeah, just a bit at the top of the head.
Yeah, which is what I look like if I don't shave regularly. But then in time, particularly when monasteries took on a more of a role of like a hospital, they'd learn to do various healing tasks, so dealing with wounds, burns, setting fractured bones, infections, that sort of thing. And the most skilled surgeons would even do trepanation, which is where you drill a hole in the skull to relieve tension / let bad spirits out. Amputation and delivering babies, which I don't think should really be on the same level or regularity as trepanation, but
no.
Who am I to judge?
Well, yeah, you're not a medieval barber surgeon, are you?
No, or even a modern day one.
Like in if you want to have a cheap haircut, you can go to like student barbers. In fact, I think some places even do it free, don't they? And obviously the other side of it is because somebody's learning how to do this.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to do that, would you, with the student barber surgeon? like, like, need my leg chopping off. Bit short of coin. Let's go to the old student barber surgeon place, and might lose a leg, might lose both legs.
Yeah, I mean that implies that they don't know if it's the left or the right, and we're too nervous to ask. And like you get to the end, like so it was the left leg. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, I've not done this before. Also, you should be in quite a lot of pain. So that's what the surgeons did, and then the barber surgeons underneath would do the lowliest tasks, so sort of more of an assistant role, doing the leeches, the pulling teeth. In 1308, King Edward II granted barbers with a guild status, and in 1375 the guild was expanded and split into two, one for surgeons and one for barber surgeons. But because the barbers were cheaper, because they were doing, it's sort of like back alley stuff, they were cheaper. They became, cost effective but less reputable medical professionals. The sort of dodgy plagues you could get both a perm and a cheeky amputation, which is a amputation of the glute, I think. And barbers became increasingly associated with the more gruesome services, particularly of Henry V's 1415 campaign in France, and then later the 30 Years' War from 1618 to 1648. And during which they do sort of war-related injuries, sort of field dressing, I think they call it. And then in peacetime, they'd fall back on the haircuts thing. And this system essentially just carried on with the role of barber surgeon declining as surgery became a more refined and professional role that needed, sort of official accreditation, moving from the learn on the job role to something you had to study for. And then in 1743 in France and 1745 in England, respectively, barbers were forbidden to perform surgery, and then they only did hair from then on. I mean, for which I guess I'm grateful.
Eternally grateful.
Yeah, I sort of feel like, doctors should be doctors and barbers should be barbers. Not that I've visited either in quite a long time. But
how do you feel about barbers being singers and doing quartet today?
Specifically a quartet. You occasionally see a barbershop quintet, and I find that disgusting.
That's just too far.
It's like, how many trebles do you need, honestly?
I saw hairdressers in London once called Barber Streisand, which is just the best name for one I've ever seen.
Is it so? Here's the thing, right? Isn't it weird that only certain professions get away with a pun in the name?
Yes,
like chip shops, barbers, some restaurants, but not high-end ones.
No, only you couldn't go. I feel like not even medium. It has to be low-end restaurants can get away with it.
Yeah, so it was more like calves and greasy spoons, that sort of thing. So what we need is to launch the first Michelin star restaurant, but with a pun in the name.
With a pun, yeah,
easy. Yeah, let's think.
Cooking with grief. Let's go. Let's take this far too literally. Here's some unearned confidence. Let's just go start a Michelin-starred restaurant. Neither of us are chefs. I mean, I know you have your background as cooking and catering and stuff like that, but neither of us have, cordon bleu, Michelin-star, been to bread school, all that stuff.
Bread school.
Bread school.
I like that. So that's essentially my second topic.
Okay, I have a thing to add on that. I thought you were going to say it, but you didn't. Unless you did, I missed it. In Britain, surgeons go from obviously male adults in Britain. You're Mister whatever. Then, if you become a doctor, you obviously become Doctor whatever. But surgeons in Britain, when they finish all their surgery school, they go back to being Mister. And it's because of exactly what you were saying about how doctors were, you said near the start, about them being university trained, back in the day. Whereas surgeons were surgeons were a guild and tradesmen and all that. So obviously back in the day, surgeons were misters, and they've kept that tradition up, even though obviously all surgeons
Our doctors.
are
Yeah.
doctors.
Just say we always need like a new title for them. Like, oh, I was about to say SG then, but I think that might be sergeant. But, you know, actually, let's just go with that. Let's all surgeons get to call themselves sergeant.
Sergeant Knife Man.
Yeah. I mean, that's nominative determinism at its best. If your surname is Knife Man, and you either become a surgeon
or a serial killer.
I was going to say work in a carnival to make it less dark.
No.